On February 10th, 2026, PR Newswire US reported on the story of a dog named Yuki. Yuki was brought to a shelter with her 9 puppies that were all very quickly adopted, but Yuki was left behind, and she waited 7 long months before a woman named Anna came along and adopted Yuki. This story had a happy ending, but for many other shelter animals, they continue to wait their turn to be adopted. BestFriends.org told that in 2024, 7 million US citizens are looking to add a pet to their home. So chances are that you or somebody you know are also looking for a pet. The question is, should you adopt your next pet or should you buy your next pet from a breeder? Today I'm going to tell you 3 reasons why you should adopt and not shop. First, I will tell you how adoption fixes overcrowding in shelters. Second, I will tell you how adoption benefits rehabilitation of animals. And third, I will tell you how adoption would control the overpopulation crisis. Let me start by telling you how adoption would control overcrowding. Choosing to adopt would fix the overcrowding issue that many US shelters are experiencing. In 2025, ShelterAnimalsCount.org reported that 6 million animals entered shelters, but only 5 million were adopted. The same report said that 750,000 healthy, adoptable animals were euthanized last year, often just because of this overcrowding. Imagine how millions of people, if they were to decide to adopt instead of shop, that this euthanasia data could change in the future and be reduced. Now that we've discussed how adoption benefits overcrowding, let me tell you how adoption would help traumatized sheltered animals. Choosing to adopt would allow for better rehabilitation of shelter animals that shelters can't do by themselves. The Journal of Applied Animal Ethics Research reported in 2019 that there are several highly stressful sources that contribute to poor behavioral traits in a lot of shelter animals that unfortunately off-puts a lot of potential families. And shelters are able to rehabilitate these animals, and they have, but it requires too many resources. For example, the same source discusses how it took several years just for one aggressive dog to be rehabilitated. Adoption would allow for the individual adopter to give attention to the pet they adopt, and also the adoption fees would go back to the organizations that are taking care of these animals. Now that we've discussed how adoption benefits rehabilitation, let me tell you how adoption would benefit the population control of pets. Choosing to adopt would allow for control of the overpopulation crisis, unlike buying a pet would. On February 18th, 2009, the Canadian Press reported that one pair of cats can reproduce 2,000 kittens in 4 years. So also similarly high rates are possible for dogs. The same source also reported that since widespread knowledge of sterilization has increased since the 1970s, there has been evidence of reduced overpopulation problems. So reducing that also resulted in less overcrowding and also less euthanasia. On 2010 animallaw.info reported that 32 states require by law that all rescues and shelters have their animals sterilized, which is not a requirement for private breeders. So buying a pet might just contribute to the overpopulation crisis rather than help it. Today, I told you 3 reasons why you should adopt and not shop for your next pet. First, I told you how it controls overcrowding. Second, I told you how it benefits rehabilitation of animals. And lastly, I told you how it would reduce the overpopulation issue. Millions of animals enter shelters every year, and millions of people also look to add a pet to their home. If they adopt, they could have a happy story just like it was for Yuki. Remember that when you adopt, you're not just bringing home a companion, you're also giving a second chance to an animal that deserves it.